All right, here's John.
And here's Chip.
Where are we at today, John?
Today we're at the Hewitt Cemetery, and it's an old pioneer cemetery that's on an adjacent hill from the camp, and we used it for homestead camp. And when I say an old pioneer cemetery, it was built, or not built, but in 1855 Moses Hewitt donated it to a family that lost their son. They were traveling in a wagon from Pennsylvania, and along the way their son passed away, infant child, and so he donated 2 acres, and this is how the cemetery became about. And some more history. We have the Everman family, which is a stone right here, and in about 1863 they lost 6 children to diphtheria. And diphtheria is a bacterial that infects the bronchial type breathing and stuff. And so within 3 weeks, all 6 of their children had passed away in the fall. And well,
Yeah, that's
tough times.
Tough times, yeah. And you know, looking at the history, it sounded like it went through in a couple of cycles. At 1851, wasn't it? 1857, yes. And then again in 1863, diphtheria hit hard in the area.
Yeah.
So it's tough times.
Yeah, and you ever get a chance to look up the cemetery? It's a really nice old cemetery, lots of old stones, and we do grave sketchings on it, or etchings, however you do it, piece
rubbings,
of paper, rubbings, yeah.
Rubbings.
And trying to see who can find the oldest date and the newest date on it. And
a lot of history in this little spot. We've seen gravestones from veterans of the Civil War up here. Just a lot of an interesting spot with a lot of history. About how far from camp, would you say?
Well, it's a good mile.
Good mile. So
a nice hike.
If you know where to look, you can see it from camp. We'll try and point that out later.
Yeah.
Okay. Here we go.
Okay, off in the distance we can see the Barnum Equestrian Center across the valley and up on top of the hill, the yellow and, well, cream collared and red roof, and then the hay barn, a few other things at the camp that sticks out like the windmill. But we're standing right here on the corner of the Hewitt Cemetery, and sort of the way we found this was through the homestead camp. And one of the things was just learn about early pioneers, and so we actually took the group when we first started the homestead camp. We walked from the camp down to the creek, and then from the creek up to the tall cornfield, and used the blue harvest store in the background as sort of our guiding post to get us to the cemetery once we could see these nice big tall pine trees. And so once we got to the cemetery, we would sit under the shade tree. I think it was usually about lunchtime, so we eat our little snack lunch, and then we do some grave sketchings, and then we actually read the story about the Everman family, and I'm trying to think, we had Bible study going here too, and just sort of a little outing for the camp.
Yeah.
People that went to homestead camp, excuse me.
And you guys got picked up by a bus and brought back to camp after that, right?
Well, no, when I was a counselor, we walked it all, and then we'd walk back down the road and fill up our water jug, and then we'd go creek stomping. But as the years progressed, people seemed to think that it was too far to walk, and they would use the van or the bus to come here, and the van and bus would take them back to camp. So,
yeah. So, and you said it was about a mile or so, roughly.
I'm guessing it's probably 2 miles. It's a good hike to the cornfield. You think you'll never come out of the corn, that's for sure. So now we're standing at the camp looking back at the cemetery. So we got the 2 big pine trees you can see over there, and then if you can't see them when you're hiking there, you can always look for the blue harvest store with the white roof. They both sit up on top of the hill.
Yep.
Okay, so we're standing out here beside the Native American mound on the south side, or south portion of the camp, and we're looking at the red gate that goes into the Russell 40. And as we're scanning the camera, you can sort of see the burnt grass that we burned off the other day. And then right below us we have the Native American mound that was built on top of the hill, that we can see the cemetery from there. And then actually you can see almost the whole camp. You can see all of John Wood's farm. And if you look real close, Chip's going to come up here and show us where the ruts, wagon train ruts, are running through the mound. So he's in the rut on the right side right now. And then as he's walking, we got a horse here trying to knock the camera, so I have to run back and forth in front of the camera here. And then over to the other side, he's gonna go. They didn't plow through the top center. They went through the sides of it, through the middle sides of it. And I don't for sure why, but I'm guessing it probably got too muddy, so then they had to switch sides and back off.
Roll with it, John.
And well, and that's switch sides because it got too muddy, because you know the prairie grass did, you know, when we walk out in the other prairie grass, it is very spongy on the sides and muddy and stuff. Even in dry times it gets kind of spongy too. Okay.
Yeah.